Can you talk about how you came to the book and when you decided this was the next film you wanted to make?
Well, it was a bit strange because I had just given birth and I took a break for a year to be with my child, and then I was keeping getting scripts from William Morris, my agency, and I got Madame Bovary. And my first reaction was like, I am not touching this. Minnelli and Renoir and Claude Chabrol all tried, but it was a bit like a Pandora box. I had the script there, and I was very curious to see how it was adapted because it's one of my favorite books. My mom was a French literature professor, and she gave me Madame Bovary when I was 14. And I read it throughout my life, and every time I reread this book, I realize how badly I read it previously. Because as a teenager, you identify to her, and you think she's such a free, iconoclast, rebellious woman, and once you have a child and you have a husband and you're like, she's completely self-destructive. So you have, there's different readings, and there is a way, like Flaubert was saying that a lot about Emma, how badly she would read books. She wouldn't get the essence of the books, but she would get what in her young age she could get from this book at a romantic age. And so the book always stayed with me, and then I started reading the adaptation, and I thought, it was really great, the freedom that the screenwriter took, because it was only a few years of her life. She didn't have a child, and the character of Lheureux was much more developed in the script. So all these things really attracted me, because it was, for the people who really know the book, it was taking liberties, and I felt it could be made in a film in 2 hours and focusing on the themes that I was interested in.
Okay, well, you assembled an incredibly striking international cast. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of how you were, visualizing the roles and how you pulled that cast together?
Well, Mia, I thought wouldn't want to do it because she had done Jane Eyre and also Albert Nobbs and Alice, so I wasn't sure she wanted to do another period film. But when I heard she had read the script and liked it, I jumped out of my seat because I thought she was probably one of the most talented actresses of her generation to portray this character, and I'm gonna make her blush, but what I love about Mia is her, for someone who is 24, the maturity and the ambiguity. Like, you never really know what she thinks or what she feels. There is an enigma that I think Madame Bovary, the character, has. You can never completely grasp what this woman's problem is. You know, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I was joking just before that when I started the project, she was 3, and now she's 5, and she told me over the summer, but Mama, really, this Madame Bovary, what is her problem? Because she was hearing me talking about it all the time, and I was like, well, she's so right. What is this woman's problem? Like, and it's a modern problem. It's dissatisfaction. You know, we tend to be dissatisfied, and there is a fantastic British analyst called Philip Adams who wrote about the unlived life and the fact that we spend so much time wanting to live another life instead of living our life, and how much projection we have in love, and that consumes us, you know, and the consumerism is, another. So there's so many themes to explore, but I think, those ladies have done so much for the film, you should ask questions.
Well, Mia, I mean, what is Emma Bovary's problem? I mean, in the film, it's very much, you've constantly got that kind of balancing act between a kind of naivety and a kind of urge for self-destruction. And how did you approach it as a role? What was your kind of research to get into that mindset?
I mean, it's always more fun to play a character that's angry and rude and self-destructive and than it is to play a character that's sweet and nice and affable. But what I like about Emma is that she sort of represents the emotions that we don't like about ourselves. She's, very jealous and angry and envious, and she's not like a classic hero in any way. And I really like her. And also, everybody has a different perspective as to who she is, depending on, like what Sophie was saying, their age, or depending on, whether you're a female or a male. She's always sort of divides people.
Excellent. The costumes in the film are absolutely ravishing. Valerie, can you talk a bit about the collaboration with Sophie and how you came to, the creative process to come up with those costumes?
Okay, I apologize. I will speak in French, so Sophie, would you mind to translate me? Le costume, en fait.
She says that basically the costumes play such an important role in her moral and an economical dismissal that ruin that she didn't approach the costumes. The costumes are not just a way to dress the actress, it's more than that. Every costume has a psychological significance.
En fait, le début du film, le personnage de Emma.
At the beginning, she has the colors are all a green, gray, green, and all the dresses. I'm going to add this because I think this was very interesting in the process. They named every dress. So at the beginning, it's the dress of virtue, the dress of boredom. So they're all in these shades of green and gray. And then when she starts meeting l'heureux and starts taking lovers, you go to much richer fabrics like silk. And the dress is starting to have names that I think were very evocative. For instance, the red dress with the flowers is inspired from a Baudelaire poem, Les Fleurs du Mal, because all those flowers are these poisonous, toxic flowers that start creeping into her existence. I remember also we were talking about the hunt, this orange dress as an asymmetric line, which is trying to show the fragmentation of the character. So I think what's incredible about Valerie's work is like every piece has a psychological signification that will work unconsciously in the audience mind.
My initial instinct feeling towards the costume was utter terror because they were so incredible and just how to kind of embody them. But they were they're an incredible tool when you're kind of thrust into another world to be able to know how it feels. And Valerie was probably the most. She'd probably worked the hardest of almost any of the costume designers I'd worked with to really study her journey and where she was coming from and where she was going, and it was a gift to be able to wear the costumes like that, and how much it informs you is wonderful.
That's the big challenge when you take such an iconic piece of literature is you have to make 150 choices per day on the page of what you keep and what you don't keep. The handicap, I think, in filmmaking is you don't have, of course, the prose. You don't have 500 pages. All you have is those images and those wonderful actors. And so you're trying to convey psychology and narrative and aesthetic. And so that's difficult. And I think, we're striving to try to make the feeling and the atmosphere as authentic as possible. So we shot in France, in this small region where everything had to feel real, that it wasn't studio. Nothing is shot in a studio, everything is a real location. We had very little budget, so we could only transform very few places. But the idea is, how do you make it in 2 hours? So, the choice was not to have a child, which would be per se, I think, a whole story, because in the book she's very ambivalent about her child, and if you put only a few scenes, then she just becomes a bad mother. And I think with Emma Bovary, everything is much more complex than that. She's not a bad mother, she's just a conflicted person about everything. So all the little choices you're making along the way, and in the process you hope you don't lose the spirit of the book, and that it works as a movie. So that's complicated.
Can I ask you a little bit about the aesthetic? Because I think the cinematography is just ravishing. I think this is such a handsome film. And when you were first working with Perec, the cinematographer, what were the visual kind of clues and stimulus that you were sharing?
Yeah, well, André is actually my husband, so he had no choice. He had to shoot this movie. And we've been working together on all my films. He's shot all my films. And so we have a passion for painting. We work a lot out of painting. We did a lot of visual research for the film. Most of our inspiration comes from this Danish painter, Amershoy. I don't know if you know him, but he paints a lot of women alone in living rooms with gray, blue walls. So you can have fun and match the paintings and the movie. It's pretty close. And he works a lot from natural light. And we shot on 35 scope formats. And so for us, the idea was to try to reproduce this feeling of the 19th century. Another painter that we love is Ramon Casascarbo, he's a Spanish painter from Barcelona from the 19th century, and his palette of colors is exquisite, and we try to emulate that. So, André has a very naturalistic approach. The idea was, at that time they only had candles, and so there is only one source of light to motivate the action. So, that's why the interiors are very dark, because we're trying to respect, that's how people were living. They didn't have electricity, so it has to feel oppressing and very, the most authentic possible. So that was his, I think, decision. He's not here today because our movie is playing at the Hamptons Festival in New York, so we had to split. He's doing the Q&A there, but he would love to be here.